And I want to get into nail competing because you're also an international nail judge. And considering that you've competed in nail competitions around the world, and also what I really found really cool is that you're the who's who of Australia back in 2010, 2011. I thought that was really cool. With being a nail judge and your years of competing, you mentioned in an interview with Alex Fox, I believe, it was about training in terms of preparation for competing. Now, this is my first time competing in a competition. So, what is your advice for people that are competing for the very first time? And also, how should one prep for a nail competition in whatever category, whether it's fantasy or like a French tip competition or whatever category it is?
Okay. So basically, one of the biggest issues with, one of the biggest challenges, sorry, not issues, with competing is the unknown, not knowing what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
So you can follow competitions and you can go to a competition, you can see the results and everything, but seeing the results is completely, let's say a French nail, let's take a French nail, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at a beautiful set of French nails online and think
Mm-hmm.
they're amazing. And you can build a French nail and it looks beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But there's criteria that's associated with that French nail.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it be, you know, the degree of your C curve, the, you know, your apex, your product placement, how thick they are, how thin they are, where they need to be built, where they shouldn't be built. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there is so much involved now, which is amazing, but there is so much involved in the structure of a nail that to go in blindly, it would be basically, look, my advice is you need to seek out someone who has actually won, who has achieved results, and train with them. And that will just give you, it was like going back to, you know, Phyllis Italiano that I trained with, she had won. So she knew what needed to be done to achieve that result. So whether you use it for competition or whether you use it in your salon, it's still going to make you a better technician or a better artist.
Right.
So, you know, I would be seeking out people who have accomplished, you know, wins, so that you know that they've got what it takes. They've got the skill to basically win, which means that they've got the technique and the experience and they can pass that on. So that 150%, I wouldn't, if I was starting off now and if I knew what I knew now back then, I would have, and I did, I trained under some of the best, like Tom Holcomb and Alicia and Anthony and all that. I would definitely recommend that. For art, art is completely different because it's basically, I mean, there's so many different, you know, areas of it. What I would do is if you didn't know how to do something, so let's say fantasy, and you want to know how to build a piece, then I would definitely do a course in that, do a class with someone and learn how to compose a piece from scratch, you know, a freestanding piece. When it comes to flat nail art and painting techniques and so forth, you know, like that's something that if you're an artist, you can bring that to the table straight away. So that you may not need to necessarily train in, but you know, for example, I did mention it as well with Alex. I did a course over the COVID lockdown with an artist and learned how to do portrait painting. So I've always, you know, focused on animals, and because that's where I love animals. And I enjoyed painting them, but I thought I'm going to step out of my comfort zone and try something different and use the skill that I've developed with painting a dog's face and seeing if I can transfer that into a human face. And it's a completely different, it's a different canvas to work with, you know, or different, you know, like you're doing a human's face. It's different than doing an animal, but you're still using some of the same techniques. So I noticed that when she was teaching, a lot of the techniques I could transfer over, but it was more the proportion. And also, you know, they give you ideas on how to do things maybe a little bit easier or a little bit different and get a better result, you know, that sort of thing. So training 150%. Training is really important.
Hmm. So I wanted to ask, like, your whole experience with competing. What was your first time competing like, and what was that category within the first time you've competed?
The very first time, that was a disaster. So I came out of my training and I thought that I was the Anne's pants. I thought that I thought my work was really good. So I thought, yeah, it's time that I entered a competition. So I did. It was a competition in Melbourne. I used one of my clients.
Mm,
He was also a friend of mine. Anyway, I did this beautiful set, best set of nails I've ever done.
mm,
And when they announced the results, I thought I was a sure thing, right?
mm,
And they announced the results and I didn't win.
yeah.
And I'm not an overly confident kind of person, but I was so sure that my work was that good,
Mm,
because that was the best set I had ever done.
right.
So I was really surprised by it. And funnily enough, I bumped into my trainer, who happened to be one of the judges. And
Hmm.
I said to her, I don't understand.
Mm,
I've done this amazing set of nails. Why
mm,
didn't I win? Why didn't I place? And she looked at my nails and she said, Viv, you've come a long way. She said, your work is great. She said, however, have you seen the winning nails? And I said, no. She said, let me go and get you the winner's nails. Right. And she
mm,
brought this girl over and this girl, flashed her nails at me. And I've looked at them and I said, what's that? And she
mm,
said, that's called a French nail. I had done all one color.
mm,
It was a natural color. I had no idea that French nails even existed. So I was that
mm,
fresh out of my training. I didn't
mm,
even know French nails existed. I didn't know there was a white product and a pink product. And
mm,
I didn't know that you could build a smile line. So that was my first disastrous experience with competing. I was absolutely shattered. But
mm,
straight after that, I thought, all right, then. Well, I think, pretty much a few days after, I made my way over to a supplier and I bought myself some pink and white
mm,
product. And I started practicing. And then I found Phyllis and I did the training with her.
mm,
But that's pretty much how I got into comps. And then after I won
mm,
second place, competing with Phyllis, I just kept going.
mm. Now, what was your favorite category that you've competed in?
Art.
Mm,
I did all the technical for years and years and years,
mm,
but I got more enjoyment out of doing the art.
mm,
So in the end, I stopped competing in technical and just focused on the art.
mm,
But that was more fun. Technical is super important because it teaches you how to structure a nail. And to this very day, and I don't do nails anymore in a salon, but I can still structure a beautiful nail.
mm,
And I still train. Like I trained with Olena Osman in Australia, not this year, gone the year before. I brought her down.
mm,
And I still sat and did some one-on-one training with her and so forth. So structure is the most important thing. You've got to
mm,
know structure before you put a design on a nail.
mm,
But for fun, I enjoyed the fantasy,
mm.
mixed media.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
doing the mixed media and also the flat art box, the two categories in Nail Olympia. So I'm trying those out because art is, like I said before, it's like my favorite thing to do. Like creating nail art is so cool to do. I wanted to ask, like, what is your favorite product or medium to use when creating nail art?
There are so many amazing products out there. That's a hard one to ask me because I work with only Akzentz now.
Mm,
So my favorite product, my absolute favorite product, and I use it for everything, is gel play.
mm,
So I paint all of my flat nail art, and all of the 3D work and everything that I do is I use gel play to paint with.
mm,
It's like a thicker viscosity, not overly thick, very highly pigmented,
mm,
blends beautifully. So all the dog faces and all the portraits and everything that I've been doing is all done with gel play.
mm. What
I
is
don't use acrylic paint anymore because it dries up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, with acrylic paint, it can dry like very quickly. I like watercolor. Like watercolor, you can just like play with it. Also, like with gouache, gouache is kind of like watercolor, but you can play with it. And like even if you put like
watercolor is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, with like gouache and watercolor, when you put water on it, you can still work with it. So that's really cool. I also like using gel. I'm a big fan of gel. I also like 3D gel. Like 3D gel is really cool to work with, and you make these different figures and sculptures. I like that as well. I'm gel hands down. With acrylic, like what's your whole experience with sculpting with like acrylic? Because I feel like to me, when you do art with acrylic, the thing that I have with working with it is it dries a lot quicker. So you don't have a lot of time to like make a figure or make like a piece of artwork with acrylic. So what's your whole advice in terms of doing fantasy nails with acrylic?
Well, it's funny because actually acrylic's my background, so I came from acrylic. And majority of my years in the industry has been focused on acrylic. So all my original pieces were always done with acrylic. It's only been in the last, 7 years that I've really focused on gel. Acrylic I find super cool to use for 3D and fantasy because it dries quick. So you're able to, there's two facets to it. So if you're trying to build something tall, right?
Right.
Let's say a broomstick, like I just did a witch recently, a broomstick. If you're doing it with gel, if it's not a sculpting gel kind of thing, then you've always got you've always got to be working it until you stick it in that light and you cure it. So there's the chance that it can, drip or change shape or whatever.
Exactly.
With acrylic, you put it on, you pat it into place, and it sets. But in saying that, if you're just starting out in art and you haven't done that kind of work before, for example, let's say a flower, you create a petal with acrylic. Once you've created that bead and you've pressed it out into your flower, that's it. You can't change it. You can't add to it. You can't alter it. So when I teach a flower or something, I always teach with a gel powder or with a gel, like a 3D gel, because it gives a student all the time in the world, like they can literally spend the next 10 years playing with that product because it doesn't set until it's cured.
Right.
So the other bonus of working with gel as well is that you can add on to it. But acrylic has, it's funny, like I can do a piece, and obviously if you're doing fantasy and mixed media and you've got to use 5 different mediums, you've got to bring acrylic into it. Well, it's easier to bring acrylic, gel, as 2 of your mediums out of those 5. So, you would pick certain things. For example, if you wanted to build something that you were holding or that you couldn't cure properly or easily, and gel would be too messy or whatever, then you would use acrylic. If it was something that you needed to set really quick, use acrylic. So yeah, like you can mix the 2 of them up and they're really good. But in a salon, if I was running a salon now, I wouldn't be using acrylic for nails. I would only be using gel. I haven't worn acrylic on my nails for, God, I can't even tell you how many years now. So it's just completely different when it comes to, the 2 mediums.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like with acrylic, it's very, I feel like it's more of a challenge also than with gel. Like how you said, like with gel, you can spend all the time in the world and it doesn't cure until you put it under the light. With acrylic, you got to set it and then you got to work with it, before it dries. So it's not going to be wet for a long period of time. So I thought that was very interesting. And also too, you do very fine, intricate detail. And I wanted to ask, like, what are your favorite brushes to use when creating like intricate, fine detail? And what brushes do you recommend if somebody wants to do fine detail in their work?
So it really depends on what you're using. I was using the, what were they called? They're a Russian brush for watercolor and, oh God, the name has just completely, Rubloff, I think it was. They're a beautiful brush, but now I basically use, like for all the work that I do with the detail, the dogs and so forth, I use a number 2. Sorry, excuse me. I've got a tickle in my throat. I use a number 2 and a number 1 out of Akzentz and a number 6. That's the beauty of working from home. The dogs in the background. Sorry. There's probably a butterfly flying past the window. Yeah, so, and if I need that really, really, really fine effect or fine brush, you can also cut them. If you cut them at the base and Looper, I'm sorry. Looper, come here. Come here. They're like children, aren't they? The moment that you're occupied, that's when they play up. Yeah, you can cut them. If you cut them at the base with a set of clippers, don't cut too far down, but make sure that you leave just the tiniest little bit, but you cut evenly all the way around, because the brushes are designed to, the way the bristles are placed, to give you the point and whatever. So you need to be careful when you cut them, but if you cut them properly, you can actually create a really cool, really fine brush, and still have the strength in the body of the brush to give you that control.
Yeah, I heard of this other brand of brushes that different nail artists use, and it's called Kalinsky. Especially some of the nail techs or nail artists in Russia, they use like those fine detail like brush, especially like for acrylic, and those are really nice brushes too.
Well,
like
Kalinsky's a type of hair.
Yeah, and for when I do like fine detail, I use like thin like pinstripe brushes. Sometimes I cut my brushes down to get the fine detail that I want. So it's really cool to have like that fine detail, to learn about adding fine detail to a piece of artwork, and it takes your work to the next level. So I wanted to also ask about, in terms of like from how you first started into the industry to now, do you feel like the beauty industry as a whole has evolved? And if so, how?
Oh, it's changed like phenomenally. We went at the internet. The internet has been a massive game changer in the industry. Good in so many ways, and probably bad in a few ways. Like, for example, people are less inclined to train because you can watch free YouTube tutorials, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the person creating the YouTube tutorial knows what they're doing. So that has worked against us. But what has worked for us is the connections. Look at you and I right now. If we were going to do this 10 years or 15 years ago, I would have had to have flown to the States, or you would have had to have flown here. So being able to connect with people worldwide has made a really big difference, over the course of, the last, 20, 30 years. But back then it was kind of, I would say it was kind of easier, in the sense that you're able to build your branding and build your, pretty much build your business based on your reputation.
Right.
These days, it's more about what's pretty, because there is so much out there. It's flooded, and you've got to kind of, if it's pretty and it dazzles, then, it's like, oh, something pretty, it's easy. Do you get me?
Yeah.
So you're competing against all of that. So it's a completely different dynamic, I love the fact that years and years ago, in the industry, whether it be beauty, makeup, hair, nails, whatever, it was based on reputation. Like you built your career based on your reputation.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And how, but it's very, very, now you've got influencers, and, there was a time where you could buy followers. So all of a sudden you've got someone who may have learned how to do nails or whatever on YouTube.
Yeah.
And they bought themselves a couple of 100,000 followers, and they're an expert.
Right.
And then you've got someone else who it may not be so tech savvy, that has got years of experience behind them, that doesn't have the same amount of followers. So it was all about, it became a thing where if you didn't have followers, you weren't recognized. That was really sad seeing that happen.
Yeah, and also too, I feel like with how, like in terms of considering how many years you've been in the industry, especially with Catherine Wong and Gina Silvestro, you guys have been in the industry for a long period of time, and you guys have perfected and honed your craft so much, and you're also committed into helping others and training. And kind of nowadays it's evolved because I think people are so focused on, not everyone, but certain people are focused on getting followers and, like how you said, what's pretty, instead of like producing a very good product or understanding the whole basis of how to create a nail the right way, doing it right. And I like how you stress a lot about training and how training is very important, and honing certain skills, whether it's like a French or a nail technique, because I think that that's very important. And also too, you also mentioned about never stop learning, and you should do it for, like, it's your passion, not to make money. And there's some people also nowadays that are just trying to, do stuff just to make money. And there isn't much passion for what they do, like, or whatever it is of what they do, especially the time that we're in now. So it's very interesting of how you talked about, with the industry, it's changed a lot, but it could be improved more. And
for sure.
I wanted to ask, like, is there a huge difference in terms of the beauty industry between the US and Europe? Is there a huge difference, or is there a bit of similarities?
Well, it's hard to say because I'm at the bottom of the world. I'm right down under. No, look, Europe. So it's funny because over the 30 years that I've been in the industry, I've seen the trend change. So at one stage it was Asia that was leading our market. So whatever was coming out of Japan, that was setting the benchmark worldwide. And you'd find that it would filter through. So, it might go from Japan to, say, America, the US, and then the US would hone in on that, develop it. And obviously, Europe would jump on board, and then it would filter down to Australia, and then it would filter down to New Zealand, for example. And that kept swapping between Asia and Europe.
Right.
And at the moment, I would say Europe is leading, because they've got a different mentality, and that's the divide. So basically, when they do training, their training is not 10 o'clock in the morning so you can have a sleep in and drop the kids off, till 4 o'clock in the afternoon because you got to pick the kids up and cook dinner for the family. Training starts at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it finishes when you drop, which could be 10, 11 o'clock at night. And it's not, stopping for an hour-long lunch and, whatever. It's working all the way through, head down, bum up, really strict, it's a culture.
Right, exactly.
And Japan and Asia, a lot of Asian countries used to be the same. Whilst you'll find that with America and Australia, we're a little bit more relaxed, more laid back. So, we may start a class at 9 and finish it at 6, but that's for the diehards. But then, nowadays people just want to fit in all their training within a 4 or a 6 hour span. So training has become shorter and shorter. I think Europe is pretty much leading you look at the work coming out of Europe, it's phenomenal. you
Yeah,
know,
it's incredible.
then I think that filters through to the States and it filters down to us. And also, I mean, with the internet these days, we've got access to all of it anyway
Right,
now.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have so much access to like everything. Like everything is accessible. Like how you said, like, the internet is like free. Like the biggest college or biggest asset to learning different things is the internet. So you can't beat that. I wanted to ask something in terms of life related. What is your whole perspective on being successful and striving for greatness, considering your whole experience being in the industry and being so well, trained, but also so advanced in your craft? Like, what is your whole take and perspective on success?
No one's ever asked me that before. That's actually a difficult question. Do you know, it wasn't even about any of that. It goes back to the thing that my dad said.
Mm-hmm.
That's stuck in my mind. And I suppose I have three very successful brothers that
Mm-hmm.
I've walked in their footsteps. But again, they're on a completely different level. They're academics.
Mm-hmm.
So success can be rated in so many different ways. I look at my history or my career, and I measure my success probably based on the connections, the friendships that I've formed, the fun that I've had, the
Mm-hmm.
adventures, the experiences, which is completely different than, say, someone else may measure their success. So I look at it from the point of view that, one day when I sit there, or even now, if I sit here and I look back at the
Mm-hmm.
last 30 years, I've got so many amazing memories that I cherish. That's actually phenomenal experiences. And I've been
Mm-hmm.
on my own with my son, so from the age of 3. And I've been able to
Mm-hmm.
take him overseas every year for a holiday. And just through working and doing what I was doing, and clocking up frequent flyer points and stuff like that. So I look at that, and that's how I measure my success, in the fact that I've kept a roof over my son's head. It may not be a palace, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
home. Um, he's come out great. He's 22 now,
Mm-hmm.
and we've had amazing experiences together. So, and like I said, the friendships formed, and so you can measure success in so many different ways. That's how I measure it.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ask like this other question. What's your whole advice? Like say for instance, like somebody competes in a nail competition and say for instance, they don't win the first time around, or they try to do a certain technique and, they just kind of had this mindset of, oh, I'm not sure if I'm getting this right, or like, what is your whole take on how to deal with like failure or embarrassment or in terms of shortcomings? What's your whole take and advice for that?
Should never be embarrassed if you don't place. I think the fact that if you get there and you're actually competing, then you're
Mm-hmm.
already winning, right?
Yeah.
So what did I do? I would always focus on what I could take away from it,
Mm-hmm.
because their disappointment it's stock standard. It's
Yeah.
going to happen. You're going to go through it. You're going to feel disappointed. You're going to feel a little bit disheartened, maybe
Right.
shattered, devastated, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm one of those people that I always look for the silver lining
Mm-hmm.
in every cloud. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I would look at it. I would sit there and I'd think, all right, well, what can I take away from this? I learned a new technique, or oh my God, I didn't realize that I should be doing it like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take that and I'm going to use that the next time I compete, or whatever I do. So I would always try and find something positive, and it could even be something as simple as I got to meet 3
Mm-hmm.
new people that I've now got as part of my network.
Right.
Um, or I found out that the competitor that won trained under this particular person, that is my focus. I'm going to train under that person now. Or, you know, so don't look at it as like as a failure. It's not a failure. You've made an effort. You're actually, you're one up there on, you know, the rest of the people that didn't make. Look, some people can't compete and their nerves and whatever, and I get that as well. And that's okay too. Doesn't mean you can't go and train under someone.
Right.
You know, you can still, you know, develop your skills. You don't have to get on a comp floor. The only reason I like the comp floor is because it pushes you. It gives you that extra bit of motivation.
Right. Exactly.
But always look for the silver lining. That's what I would suggest. Look for the silver lining. Walk away with a positive rather than a negative. It's up to you. It's in your head.
Yeah.
Yes, you'll be disappointed, but be okay with feeling like that, but take something from it.
Yeah. And the whole thing too is what I've learned also is to never give up, and also too that preparation meets opportunity. So the more you prep, the more you're able to seize for the opportunity. And that's what my father always taught me. And learning from you guys' expertise and how much experience you've accumulated, it really goes to show, like, if you can do it, I can do it myself. I can do it too.
Yeah. So anyone can.
Yeah, anyone can. So the thing is
I was this little chick down in Australia, you know. As I said, we're at the end of the earth. And I decided that I wanted to go international. You know, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah, it takes a lot of effort, and, you know, and also practice and experience, you know. And that's no different with like Venus and Serena, you know, and they're the greatest tennis players in the world. And the thing is, you know, it goes to show, like, they're no different from us. Like, what the whole difference is, they put the work in, they put the commitment, they put in the passion in. So it's really inspiring, and it's very important also to understand these things. And this is what my father always teaches me every day. And these are the tools to help you be successful. And I'm still learning that. And I'm only 24 years old, and this is my first time competing. And I feel like for me to take that leap to competing against everybody around the world, but also learn from different people is just amazing. It's so amazing to have that experience and that opportunity for the first time to learn from you guys, and, you know, and learn from different people around the world who have experience in doing nails. And I wanted to ask you this one question. How would you define your legacy? How do you want to be remembered in the future?
Oh, I've never thought of that. I'm not thinking of the end yet.
Like, how do you want to?
I don't know.
Like, how would you define your impact on the world?
Well, I know I've kept a lot of people entertained. I happen to be a bit of a klutz, and you know, a bit of a quirky personality. You know, I suppose just helping people, and being that kind of person that, you know, has helped lead people in the right direction. But before I continue with that, I just wanted to go back. The other thing you just mentioned, which I think is so super important, it takes dedication. So you can, and that's what I find really goes wrong with a lot of people setting out, you know, in this industry. It's a tough industry, right?
Yeah.
So it's very easy. It's very easy to lose your way. But, you know, you've got to be determined, and you've got to think of it as more than just a job. It's a career. It's a you can make it what it is. Basically, you can turn it into whatever. You said you're 24. I started in the nail industry when I was 17. 17, right? By 24, I was competing, and I was starting to build a reputation and whatever. There is nothing nothing at all stopping you from, or anyone from doing it. It's
Exactly.
just being focused,
Mm-hmm.
and not giving up. God, how many
Exactly.
knockbacks and how many low points, you know, like it happens to all of us, whatever industry you're in. But, you know, you've got
Mm-hmm.
to be, I suppose that's probably part of my stubborn nature. You've got to be dedicated to it, you know,
Right.
and that's really important. I just wanted to go back to that because it's not just about winning a competition and suddenly everything lands in your lap. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
doesn't happen like that. You've
Yes.
got
Exactly.
to work. It's a lot of work
Mm-hmm.
to maintain it, to keep it, to stay on top, you know, that sort of thing. My legacy, I would just say, I hope that people remember me as someone that they enjoyed, you know, or being around, one, two, you know, being having a friendship with, or and also someone that has perhaps helped them in one way or another, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's really nice when my team will come back and say something like, you know, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have done this, or, you know, you
Mm-hmm.
pushed me to do that, or you helped me do this, or, you know, that's really rewarding. I love that. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I suppose that. But now you're going to have me thinking of mortality and what kind of legacy I want to leave behind. Thanks for that.
But yeah, this is like
Maybe
the
it's what, because I'm getting to that, you know, near 50.
no, it's just because you have so much
God.
expertise, and I just want to ask you that question to see what your take is, because this is the same question I've asked the legendary Sam Biddle. I asked Sam Biddle this same question, and I started getting into nail art around like 14 years old, and I had a passion for it since then, and or especially the artistry of it, and getting into doing things like illustration and then hand and arm body work and stuff like that. And to hear your story and your achievements and how much you've grown in terms of like the industry, like how much experience you've had in the industry is very inspiring. I just want to tell you that you, Catherine, and many others that I've looked up to have inspired me to get into nail art, into the artistry realm of it. And for us to have a couple of similarities, that's really cool too. So I just really want to thank you so much for really taking the opportunity to letting me interview and having this honor to meet you. I'm so inspired by you and your work. Your work is phenomenal. And I love the animals, and the art that you do is so incredible. And I want to say thank you so much for just taking the time out to letting me interview you. You're very inspiring, and keep doing what you're doing, helping others and inspiring other people, because you've inspired me, truly.
That's probably, there's my legacy right there.
All right. So like,
That's
mm,
that's beautiful. Thank you.
so to end this off, like, do you have any plans like for Christmas, for the holidays? Are you cooking for Christmas, for New Year's? Like, what's your whole plans for the holidays?
To spend time with people that I love. It has been sorry, it's been a hugely challenging year.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all been through so much. No one knows what's around the corner. So I think, just being together, that's all I need. Christmas Eve, we have a little bit of a wild one here. My mum started it many, many years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of open house. So it's for people who, it's for our family and friends, but
Mm-hmm.
it's for people, like that may not have someone to spend Christmas with and whatever.
Right.
So the door's open. So we just have after dinner, people come over, between 6:30 and 7:00, and we
Mm-hmm.
throw some dim sims on the barbecue, and everyone brings a plate of nibbles, and we tend to drink a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
a lot. Um, And now that all my nephews and all the kids are now, you know, in their 20s, it's just it's turned into a little bit of a wilder night than it used to be. But it's just great. It's very laid back, very, you know. And then the following day we do all the formal Christmas, you know, lunch and dinner and that sort of thing. So for me, it's spending time with family. And then I'm taking off on another. I just came back from 3 weeks away, so I managed to get away as soon as lockdown was lifted. And then in mid-Jan, I'm taking off for another 3 weeks with my brothers and some friends, and we're just going camping. So we had to break it up because of Christmas. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Oh, that sounds nice. That sounds really, really nice. Thank you so much for taking the time out to letting me interview you. I hope you have a very lovely holiday. Also, tell your family I said hello. Stay healthy, stay safe. And just thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity. It's an honor.
No, honestly, thank you. It's been really cool, very fun. And I wish you all the best. You can't tell me what you're doing because I'm a judge, but I wish you all the very best. And, you know, I'm happy to catch up with you afterwards, and we can, we can go over what your experience. It'd be great.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see how like the whole competing experience is, because this is my very first time. So I'm pretty excited. And I've practiced.
Well, once the world opens up again, I look forward to seeing you on the comp floor.
All right. All right. Well, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to click the bell for notifications. Also, follow me on my social media platforms, as well as visiting my website, ASIATHABIRD.com, and be on the lookout for more videos to come soon. Take care, stay safe, and stay healthy.